going on, guys? It's Gary from Team Synergy, and today I have a standard tier list for y'all. As you can see, like I've gone ahead and filled out, all the non-playable ones and D from, in my opinion, some of the stuff I may not know, like the lyrical stuff, but and that most of it isn't really viable. C is gonna be like, so D is gonna be like the decks like you can't play competitively. C is gonna be like your fun decks that you're gonna see like the casual players play. B is gonna be the rogue decks that could perform well, but also like not consistently. A is gonna be like your strong contenders, and then S is gonna be like, your best decks. So we'll hop in for y'all. So we're gonna start off with Overlord. Um, I think Overlord actually isn't a bad deck competitively. I think you could put it at B. Um, like it's not heavily represented, but the people that know how to play this deck, like the back of their hands, I feel like they could perform really well with it. So that's why I'm putting it at B. I think it's a very strong rogue option, as long as you know how to play it. Next, we're gonna go with Nirvana. I think this deck kind of fell off, so I think we're gonna put this at C. I think it's just too slow in this current meta, so I think C's very fair, maybe even D, but I think like you may still see some players who really like this deck, and so they'll play it. Next is Gandiva. I think it's a C, maybe high C somewhere. You could put it at B, but until we get that grade 3 off the list, I don't think it'll do anything else besides just be a fun deck for casual players to play at events. Next, Tamiyura. We can put Tamiyura at B. I think it's another rogue option. Like, it performs well in certain situations, and sometimes it doesn't. But I think the players who are gonna play it can play this competitively, and it could perform. What's this? Narukami. Just even though it's like my favorite clan, I have to put it at C. It's a rogue deck. Not even a rogue deck. It's a fun deck for players to play if it's their favorite. Nui, I mean, it's S tier, like without even saying. Even after the list and everything, this deck is still very, very, very strong, and performs very, very well, as we've seen over in Japan. Also, mind you guys, this is going up to set 4, at least from the ride lines that I know. So, yeah. I know set 4 doesn't come out till October, and so, like, I think the only people that get... I know we in Texas get it for our BCS, but I know, like, others won't have it for theirs, so... But, yeah, Nui is very strong. The Dominate still performs well, still has early game rush still with Ford and Robertus, so really strong. Next, Varga. I don't think it's S tier. I think it's very high A tier. I think this deck is extremely powerful. It gets even better in set 4 because you get that grade 3 that just goes on place. You Energy Blast 3, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose one with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard, call it, and then if it's retired, it gets 5k. Really good because now you get to filter your deck along with shuffle your deck. So you're essentially making a board with like 2 cards from your hand, if not 1 card from your hand. And that card works really well with purple OT as well. So Varga just really strong since its release. So that's why I put it there. And then the bane of my existence, Shoji Doji. This is, arguably not the best. It's the best, if not the second best deck. I think Shoujo Doji and Shiranui are equal in terms of power and strength, but like, I don't know if you look at results in Japan as much as I do. These two like put up consistent numbers every day, every week. So that's why we have those two in S. Next is Alcalibra. Although we don't have this in the TCG, um, I think it's a. I wouldn't put it A tier. I think it's high B tier. The numbers it makes is pretty scary, but like it's not. I don't think it's a threat because like if you don't find your pieces early enough, you're kind of just dead, and even then, its hand size isn't the best. So we put it at B tier. Jet. I think this deck is extremely underrated. For most people, I'm definitely putting this at A tier. Um, I'm probably gonna put it above Varga in my opinion. Um, Jet's super strong, especially with the set 3 support that I got with the I can't remember it, Folklore. Really, really powerful card in terms of that, and just really good deck that you will see at events. Next we have Chaos. This is just, would I even put it rogue? Nah, I think it's just a fun deck. Like, people who like the deck are gonna play it and stuff like that. Same with Greedon. Whoops. Wherever, there it is. Same with Greedon. I think Greedon's just a fun deck that people are gonna play. Jejoled, we haven't seen. I know me personally, I haven't seen anybody play this since since Springfest. But I still think it can be a contender. Like or I think it could be Rogue. So I wouldn't put it as just a fun deck. I think you can still play this and do really good with it. So we're gonna put it at B tier for now. Arnold or whatever its name is, the Android guy. Do I put this deck at B? I guess if I put Tamiyura at B, I put it at B. Rogue deck, I don't think it's gonna perform too well, even in the Rogue, but I still think it's a playable deck compared to like down here. Next we have Blankmire. Blankmire in set 4 actually becomes stupid good for some reason. Like, really good. So we're putting this in A tier. You're definitely going to be seeing this come set 4. Even before then, you'd still Rogue. Lukier, I don't know too much about this deck, but I know, like, nobody's going to play it. I think it's, like, people who like the deck are going to play it, and it's more of your casual type of deck, so we'll put it in C tier. This guy, I don't know his name, sorry. This guy, I think for his Wave 1 support, I don't think he's strong enough, so we'll put him C tier as well. I mean, if you're going to play him, you're going to play him, but I don't expect you to do good at all. I'm including Harry in this, just, so you guys can see where I would rank these in terms of every other deck. I would put Harry in A tier as well. Super strong deck. Come January for us it's late January, I think, for us in English, but you're not going to see this I guess you will see this in BCS season, because our BCS season is going longer, isn't it? So I'd put Harry in A tier, with these 4. Super strong deck. Liel, Odium, it's between B and C for me. I think it's more of a C tier deck. I don't think it's too much of a threat, being like, it only gets 3 attacks on Divine Skill, or it gets 3 attacks before its Divine Skill, and then 6 attacks on its Divine Skill. So, like, to me, that just doesn't seem very good. Next, we have MLB. I'm gonna put MLB at Rogue. Uh, this deck can actually perform like really well, surprisingly. We saw it in, I think, season 2 of WGP Singapore. It got like top 4, um, which is very surprising. I think the people who know how to play this and like playing it could perform very well, but I wouldn't put them in A tier. It's definitely not like you're gonna see it at the top tables consistently. Same thing for PBO. It got top 8 at season 2 of WGP Singapore, so we put it right next to MLB, and like it got top 8 at Singapore, and so again, people who know how to play it and can pilot it very well, I think, could do very good with it. Minerva, I mean, we're just gonna put that in C tier. No explanation really needed. I think it was strong for a while when it first released, and then it kind of just fell off and hasn't gone anywhere since. Same thing with the Garea, and same thing with Ezel. And then Bastion, I'd actually put Bastion at B tier. It's definitely not a bad deck by any means at all. Still a very strong deck. I just don't think it would perform over. I don't think it could put up the same type of numbers as A tier at all. So that's why we put it there. What's this guy's name? I can't remember his name. I know his gimmick, but I can't remember his name. Alden, that's his name. We can put Alden C tier. It's not, as long as that's not the destined one, right? Yeah, that's not the destined one. I think it's C tier. I think the destined one is it destined one. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, destined one. The destined one's just 100 times better than this one, so I don't see. I'm gonna put this in D tier. There's like no reason for you to even play this. Youthberg, it's like the very top of C tier, maybe low B tier, right? Like, it could do good in like one event, but past that's not doing anything else in my opinion. Luard, you're gonna notice that every Stride deck is A or S tier, so Luard goes to A tier. This isn't in any specific order, by the way, on like how they're arranged in front of each other. I'm just throwing it up there because I think everything in the category is like equally balanced with each other. So I'll throw Luard up there in A tier. No explanation really needed for this deck. I mean, I know with the dog being choice restricted with Luard, it kind of fell off a little bit in representation, but like still a very strong deck. By all means. Luon, this is just a fun deck. The people that are gonna play it are gonna play it. I don't see it performing well. Rezael, I know most people probably have this in B tier for like a rogue contender. I have a player at my locals who's like, in my opinion, a world-class player. He goes to worlds like almost every time. I'm throwing this up in A tier. Like, this deck with the correct player can do damage and put in work. So I'm definitely gonna throw this in A tier. Don't be surprised if you see this deck, top 3, top 4 of events, right? Leo Amorta. I mean, I'm gonna throw this with the Odium in my opinion. It hasn't done anything since its release, and it probably won't until it gets more support. The new Shadow Paladin from set 3, I think also goes in C tier. It's a fun deck that you can play if you want to play it. Destined one of Protection. Alden, I think, is a rogue deck. It could put numbers, but like, you're probably not gonna see it too often. Well, I just realized like my face cam was like not very low. All right, next we have Prison. I think Prison's also a rogue deck with the new cards it got. It could top, but at the same time, you're probably not gonna see it. Same with Heroes. I'll put it Rogue. It could do good, especially with its aggro game, but like you're probably not gonna see too much of it, especially in the top tables. Messiah, I'm putting this up here in A tier. Messiah is really good with the new Dual Nation card for it, like extremely good. Its grade 2 game gets 100 times better. Its consistency gets 100 times better. It's never worried about draw power. Its soul power is really good. Like, this deck puts in work as well. So, it's definitely going up in A tier. Don't be surprised to see a lot of Messiah players in the top tables of events. Ava, definitely going straight up in A tier. Maybe, actually. Let me think about this. Nah, I'll put it very top of B tier. I think it's a rogue deck. I think it's probably the best rogue deck that we're gonna get. You're gonna see the people who like it play it, and it's gonna do very well. I just don't think it performs as consistently as the other ones up here. So that's why we put it there. What is this? Silhouette? Something like that? This is C tier. I don't think it does anything other than just like being a fun deck for people to play. Orphist. I'm gonna put Orphist in unplayable actually. I don't think that's doing anything. Welstra, the Divine Welstra. I think this is Divine Welstra, right? Yeah, anyways. Welstra is a rogue contender for sure. I think this deck can perform very well. But you're probably not going to see too much of it because there are just better options like an A and S tier, right? So, but don't be surprised if you see it, you know, early to mid rounds, doing pretty well. Dimension Police. Whoa! All right, my bad, y'all. Where'd DP go? There it is. DP is definitely rogue. I think with it being such a very popular clan, and it actually not being too bad of a deck, I think you're not gonna be surprised to see like a couple people playing this, but I don't think it's gonna put up numbers past the decks in A and S tier. Next we have Archite, Rogue. I think it can perform well, but I think it's like very bottom of Rogue, to be honest. I don't think it's too good. Impaldio's kind of hit or miss, right? Because Impaldio does good against very specific decks, in my opinion. I think if you're going into an event and everybody's on Shiranui and Shojidoji, I think you're just, you know, majority of the time gonna have a very strong matchup. But if you're going up against every other deck in like A tier or even B tier, I don't think Impaldio is that strong. So I'll definitely put it in A. I think there are going to be a lot of players playing it, especially because it counters Shojidoji so well, and kind of counters Shiranui too. So that's definitely why I see it there, but I definitely don't think it outperforms Shiranui, and I think it's probably just tied with Shojidoji when they go against each other. Zorga Mask, I think if you know how to play it, you know how to play it. And if you don't, you're just not going to win with it. So we'll put it, you know, below Ava, in my opinion. Roroa is unplayable. I don't know. Unplayable. I don't know why I had that there. Same thing with Mask. Leonord, on the other hand, I'm throwing this straight in A tier. This deck is strong. It's always been really strong. It typically tends to fall out past tournament season, and then when, you know, BCS and Springfest roll back around, that's when it typically starts to pop up and start putting in numbers. Like we've seen in Singapore, it got first, and it's always been topping. So really good deck. Same thing with the multi one. The multi one's doing the same thing. I I mean, I don't think people play the Mask one, but you're definitely it's still up there. Cristianos is actually B tier for a structure deck. This is actually not bad at all, right? Like I think Bushiroad did a very good job by making a structure deck for new players be like not the worst thing in the world, right? So it's definitely playable, but I don't think it's gonna win or even top any events in my opinion. Lascaria, same thing. B tier, it's rogue. You may see it, you may not. Uh, I think Destined Zorga is worse than Mask Zorga, um, but we'll put it next to it. It again, it's rogue. This guy, I don't know too much about him. I just know that he not very good, so I'll probably put him in not playable to be honest. Levidrus, I want to put him B, but like I know his Shiranui matchup is actually really, really funny. Because when I dominate your unit, I believe you just, like, get rid of the marker. It loses 10k and you draw a card. So you don't even have to guard the first attack. Unless I use a counterblast to boost it up by 10k. So, like, I want to say it's, like, rogue. Like, I think you will see this deck, especially because it's a new deck. So we'll put it there. But, like, don't be surprised if you see, like, 0 this in an event. Nairos, it's going straight to S tier. I think this deck is like super strong. It puts up truck numbers on its third stride and so on. Even on its second stride, it's getting up there. So like this Nairos is really good. This is where we get into the lyrical decks that I really don't like. I'm not a lyrical player and I don't really look at lyrical, so like most of these I don't know. Like I don't know you, so I'm gonna put you there. I don't know you, so I'm gonna put you there. I know you have a new form, so we'll put it at C because I think the people who like this deck are gonna play it. Same thing with you and Siana. Like these just aren't the worst decks in my opinion to be like unplayable, but I think like you're gonna get the people who like the deck, and so you may see it. Prism, on the other hand, it's definitely a rogue option for sure. It kind of fell off once people realized like it doesn't counter Shiranui, and it never had. Especially now that we have the grade 2 in our ride line that just makes it to where you can't like stop us from dominating on our first ride. But I still think it's very strong. Like probably even put it up here in my opinion. Still a very strong deck, still putting up numbers. And if you know how to play it, I think you could perform very well with it. Chris Rain, I think, is not doing anything. Actually, I may put this in Rogue, because I know it gets new support in set 4, I think. That doesn't make it too bad. So we'll put it there, but it's probably, like, not even Rogue, in my opinion. These new lyrical decks, I have zero clue what they do. I haven't looked at them, so I'm gonna put like majority of them in C tier as just like a fun deck for people to play, because I don't want to say they're unplayable without knowing what they do, but I definitely don't think they're rogue. Here's the new Letitia. So like you could, I don't know what it does, so I'm gonna put it at rogue just so I don't offend people. Same thing with you, because like who knows, Borger Queen I'm probably gonna put there. Prism units, my bad guys, prism units have always done like stupid well, especially because they're lyrical. So we'll put Borger Queen there, and then same thing with you. I think this one's actually better than the, is this one better than the Chris Rain one? Maybe, but we'll put it there. Sorry for not knowing much about the lyrical effects and what they do. I just absolutely despise that nation. No offense to like the people who play it. I just like, I only like, the only art that stands out to me is Borger Queen, and like I don't want to play lyrical. So Mushi King, I think it's a fun deck. Like you could perform well with it, but maybe not. Now, this right here is where we get into like some interesting stuff. This Keter Sanctuary Quince deck. Like if you notice, every other Quince deck right here is unplayable. But this one, I'm putting it in Rogue, right? And I'm putting it fairly high in Rogue. Like I'm putting it up here. This deck just has an auto win button, right? Like if you go up against a deck that needs Counterblast, GG's, like they lose, right? This deck's actually not unplayable, and even with it not being unplayable, it's actually surprisingly good. So, definitely putting it as a contender. Don't be surprised to see this specific deck. But I definitely don't see it. I could see maybe 1 or 2 topping, but definitely not getting past like top 64. And then you have the Mygo stuff / Fang Dream stuff. I don't even think they're Rogue. I think they're just fun decks that if you want to play, you play, right? I definitely don't see them doing anything. But that's basically all for the tier list. I'll start talking over S and A tier now. Because like, so you get like my full thoughts on why I think these decks are like meta, right? So for S tier, Shoji Doji, if you've played against this deck with the new support, if you've played with it or played against it, you should know that this deck is extremely dumb in what it does, right? Like it kills your board, it hand rips you for 1, its aggro early game is insane, and it's like you literally can't give it too much damage, otherwise it goes off on its first grade 3 turn and you die, right? So it's a very, very, very strong deck. Shiranui, I don't think anybody who's played Standard recently needs any explanation to why this deck is so good. Even with the choice restriction of Dragon Empire OT, this deck, or choice restriction of OT and then the ride line fix, this deck still puts in work, and as we've seen in Japan, is still winning, still topping consistently in every tournament it plays in. And then you have Nairos. For those of you that don't know what Nairos does, it's basically gonna mill itself. It's gonna mill its. How do I explain this? Nairos is a drop deck, so it never uses cards from hand. So you don't ever have to worry about using hand except to guard. Its grade 1 and grade 2 rush are equally, if not even more powerful than Shoji Doji's early game rush. Like, that's how good it is. And then it just, once you start striding, it just starts hitting for truck numbers, and it's like, you know, people can only use 3, 4, or, you know, 4, 5 PGs max in a game. So it's like, just the numbers that it's hitting, like 70k plus, 80k plus, like they're just not going to be able to guard this, right? And then it starts milling itself out to where it thins the deck to only triggers, and it's like, you know, you can't really do anything against that. So it's like, kill them early or die, right? So that's all the S tiers. Now we have the A tiers. Chronojet. If you love this deck, or you know, you like Chronojet in general and you own it with all the new support, I highly, highly recommend putting in, like, looking at a list of Jet recently and testing it. It is super, super good, and like, this is the only A tier deck that, like, I'm tempted to just push it into S tier, right? But I think it's slightly worse than the other 3, which is why I keep it in A tier. Like, S tier is going to be like your tier 0 decks, and then you have Jet in A tier. So, like, really good deck. It bot decks, it gets massive numbers, just like Nairos, but not quite as big. Its grade 2 game and grade 1 game are really good as well. So, and its draw power is insane, which is, so it basically does everything you want it to, right? So really, really good deck. I just think you can deck yourself out really fast if you're not careful, but still super strong deck. I think don't be surprised if you see like quite a few people playing with this and even topping with it. Varga's extremely good as well. I've always said this since Varga's release. The fact that its Divine Skill has so many restrictions kind of makes it a little worse than what we'd want it to. But even with all its restrictions, it's still putting up very good numbers in terms of competitive play, right? So, I mean, the draw power you get from everything, retiring your opponent's front row is really good. Yeah, just really good deck. Blangmire, I don't know what its new support does. All I know is that its new support makes it really, really, really good. But I mean, the only reason this guy is even played to begin with is because it's Divine Skill, and its Divine Skill just says no PG, 2 crit, big number, right? Like, you're hitting Night Rose numbers, and your opponent can't PG, so for those playing against Blangmire, remember to stay at 1 or 2 damage the entire game, and when they go to do their Divine Skill turn, you have to PG the first attack, otherwise you're probably just dying, right? So, remember that. I think there should be no explanation on Luard. Luard just kind of does Luard things, right? It's like its hand isn't as what it used to be with Dog, like where they'd just be like, oh, I have 15 cards in hand. I use 7 cards to guard, and then I go back to 15 by the next turn, and then they just never deck out. Although it's not like that, it's still doing what Stride decks do, which is putting up massive numbers, and the later you go on to the game, the more it's like the harder it's gonna get to try to survive its turn, especially when they have a Stride that quad drive 2 crit big number, and the only way you can guard it is with Elementaria. So if you're Elementaria out of the deck, you're kind of screwed, right? So next is Harry. I think Harry would be better if it had a counter charger. If Harry had a single counter charger, I think Harry would just probably go straight up to S tier along with Night Rose. While Harry is such a good deck, it can't loop its second Stride like Night Rose, which is also why Night Rose is busted. But like it has the board control, it has a lot of multi-attack. You just gotta make sure like your mid and late game are evenly balanced. Like you don't want to go in on the mid game and not have a late game, but you also don't want to not have a mid game and only have a late game, because by then your opponent's probably killing you because you're not dealing enough pressure. So next we have Reziel. Again, with Reziel, like I said, this deck is like extremely underwhelming. Like most people probably put this in B, even C tier, right? This deck is extremely good. Especially for like the people who know how to play this deck. So, I mean, there's not really an explanation to like what this deck really does. I mean, it's Divine Skill, just like if it hits a trigger other than heal on 6 damage, it heals itself, and then like it gets triple drive on that turn you activate the Divine Skill, and then puts back all crits from drop back to deck. So like really good for late game for not decking out and also dealing pressure. It has the Wisdom Tayfall package along with Dog, and then you have the Musketeer guy. So like its hand can get really, really massive. Trust me, I know from experience. That it's hard to do anything, and if they have an early game, it gets even harder because like their early game is like just as good as the S tier and Chronojet early game. Like it's really good. I think Messiah is even with Jet right now. No, yeah. I think Messiah is also really good with the, what is it, Brandgate and Keter Sanctuary donation. Its draw power is nice. You don't have to worry about soul because there's so many things that soul charge. The only problem with it before was consistency. And early game, But now that you have that dual nation card, your consistency and early game are a lot better. So that's why it's performing where it should be, in my opinion. And then, like I talked about earlier with Impaldio, it has good matchups with the defensives. It kind of hard counters Shoujo Doji. So like, if you get an Impaldio player that goes, round 1 through 7, and like 4 out of their 7 matchups are Shoujo Doji, don't be surprised if they're going, X1 top or X2 top, because like their two losses are probably not against Shoujo Doji. So especially with Brain Gate OT just being as broken as it is, right? So really good deck. Leonorn, both of these Leonorns are together. I mean, I feel like everybody by this point, unless you're a new player, knows what Leonorn does. It's just gonna boost with the back row or boost with all units, get really big numbers, and then like try to kill you. Along with the Roroa ride line being able to provide the plant tokens for like early game rush. But like the issue with Leonorn's early game rush is like, if you hit a trigger on grade 1, their turn's over. If you hit a trigger on grade 2, their turn's over, right? And then their grade 3 from there is just easy to guard, right? So it's kind of like, hope they don't hit triggers, and hope your opponent doesn't hit triggers if you're playing Leonorn, and you're probably going to do very well. But other than that, guys, that's all we have for today's tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any other thoughts on any decks that you would change around, let me know. And please don't be afraid to voice your opinion on certain decks. Again, certain decks I don't know full capacity as much as you other guys know, you other people know. So it's very nice to converse about this and talk about the meta. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.
'Cause no matter what I do, I'ma always fall for you. Girl, I know that I've been steady going down the wrong path.